and welcome to Storytime in Nature. Today I'm sitting here under the beautiful canopy of Conservatory Park to read about the story of Follow the Drinking Gourd by Jeanette Winters. So settle in with me. Imagine that you are sitting in nature around a campfire underneath the beautiful canopy of the trees. And let's talk a little bit about the period. A little note on the story. So in the early days of slavery in the United States, many slaves tried to escape their cruel bondage by fleeing north, usually to Canada, to freedom. By the 1840s, a loosely organized group of free blacks, slaves, and white sympathizers formed a secret network of people and places that hid escaped slaves on their dangerous journey to freedom, a network that came to be known as the Underground Railroad. Traveling along darkened roads at night, hiding out by the day, and moving slowly upriver along hundreds of miles of connecting waterways, the fugitive slaves endured many hardships. Slave catchers hunted them down with dogs. Many were shot or hanged, and even after crossing into the free states, runaway slaves could still be captured and returned to their masters for a reward. The most famous conductor of the Underground Railroad was Harriet Tubman, a runaway slave herself, who led hundreds of her people to freedom. Among other conductors, there was a one-legged sailor named Peg-Leg Joe. Joe hired himself out to plantation owners as a handyman. Then he made friends with the slaves and taught them what seemed like a harmless folk song. And it went a little like this. Follow the drinking gourd, follow the drinking gourd. But hidden in the lyrics of the song were directions to follow the Underground Railroad. The Drinking Gourd is the Big Dipper, a group of stars or constellation, which points to the North Star that takes it all the way up to Canada. When the sun comes back and the first squirrel calls, meant spring, when travel might be the least hazardous. As the runaway slaves followed the stars north, they would come across marks Peg-Leg Joe had made in the mud or in the charcoal on dead trees, a left foot and a peg foot, and they would know they were on the right trail. The river that ends between two hills was the Tombigbee River. The second was the Tennessee River, and the Great Big River was the Ohio River, where Peg-Leg Joe would be waiting to ferry them across to the free states on the other side. From there, the fugitives were guided from one hiding place until the next, and with luck, they made it to Canada or other safe places in the north. So let's start our story. Long ago, before the Civil War, there was an old sailor called Peg-Leg Joe who did what he could to free the slaves. Joe had a plan. He'd use hammer and nail and saw and work for the master, the man who owned the slaves on the cotton plantation. Joe had a plan. At night, when work was done, he'd teach the slaves a song that secretly told the way to freedom. Just follow the drinking gourd, it said. You can see them around the campfire. When the song was learned and sung all day, Peg-Leg Joe would slip away to work for another master and teach the song again. Everyone knew the song. One day, a slave called Molly saw her man James sold to another master. James would be taken away, their family torn apart. Just one more night together. There's James on the auction block. A quail called in the trees that night. Molly and James remembered Joe's song. They sang it low. When the sun comes back and the first quail calls, follow the drinking gourd, for the old man is awaiting you for carry you to freedom if you follow the drinking gourd. They looked to the sky and saw the stars. You can see Molly and James looking at the stars. Taking their little son Isaiah, old Hattie, and her grandson George, Molly and James set out for freedom that very night, following the stars of the drinking gourd. They ran all night through the fields till they crossed the stream to the woods. When daylight came, they hid in the trees, watching, listening, for the master's hounds to set loose to find them. But the dogs lost the runaway scent at the stream, and Molly and James and Isaiah, old Hattie, and young George were not found. They hid all day in the woods. Here they are hiding in the trees. At night, they walked again, singing Joe's song and looking for the signs that mark the trail. The riverbank makes a very good route. The dead trees will show you the way. Left foot, back foot, traveling on. Follow the drinking gourd. Walking by night, sleeping by day, for weeks they traveled on. Sometimes berries to pick and corn to snatch, sometimes fish to catch. Sometimes empty bellies to sleep on, sometimes no stars to guide the way. You can see them sleeping under the corn stalks. And on a night that there are no constellations in the sky. They never knew what laid ahead. There was danger from men who would send them back, and danger from hungry bees, but sometimes a kind deed was done. It was a very scary road to the north. One day, as they hid in a thicket, a boy from a farm found them. In a bag of feed for the hogs in the wood, he brought bacon and corn, bread to share. Singing low, they traveled on. The river ends between two hills. Follow the drinking gourd. There's another river on the other side. Follow the drinking gourd. On and on they followed the trail to the river's end. From the top of the hill they saw the new path, another river beneath the stars to lead them to freedom land. The drinking gourd led them on. The song was almost done. When the great big river meets the little river, follow the drinking gourd. For the old man is waiting for to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd. Then they climbed the last hill. Down below was Peg-Leg Joe waiting at the wide Ohio River to carry them across. Their spirits rose when they saw the old man. Molly and James and Isaiah, old Hattie and George ran to the shore. Here you can see them running to Peg-Leg Joe, waiting for them to cross the river. Under a starry sky, Joe rowed them across the Ohio River. He told them of hiding places where they would be safe. A path of houses stretched like a train on a secret track leading north to Canada. He called it the Underground Railroad. It carried riders to freedom. The first safe house stood on the hill. The lamp was lit. which meant it was safe to come. Ragged and weary, they waited while Joe signaled low with a hoot like an owl. Hoo, hoo. When the door opened wide to welcome the freedom travelers. They finally arrived at the safe house. Look how relieved they look. They were rushed through the house to the barn, for the farmers knew they were slave catchers near. A trapdoor in the floor took them under the barn to hide until it was safe to move on. Then Peg-Leg Joe went back to the river to meet others who followed the Drinking Gourd. With danger still near, too close for ease, the farmer sent the 5 travelers on. He drew a map that showed the way north on the midnight road to the next safe house just over 2 hills. This time James called the signal, a hoot like an owl. Woo, woo. That opened the door to a Quaker farm. The travelers were led to a secret room hidden behind the shelves. They were traveling to the Quaker farm. They signaled the Quakers and they were welcomed inside their house. They rested there for many days and healed their wounds. Soft beds, full meals, new clothes, hot baths washed away some fear and pain. Isaiah smiled. Oh, Isaiah is so happy to be having a bath. We all love having those nice warm baths. When they were strong, they traveled again from house to house on the underground trail, still following the Drinking Gourd north. Sometimes they traveled on foot, sometimes they traveled by cart. The wagon they rode near their journey's end carried fruit to the market and the runaways to freedom. At last they came to the shores of Lake Erie. Molly and James and Isaiah, old Hattie and young George climbed aboard the steamship that would carry them across to Canada, to freedom. 5 more souls are safe, old Hattie cried. The sun shone bright when they stepped on land. Look, they made it all the way to Canada, to freedom. They had followed the Drinking Gourd. The end. Hattie and her family found freedom. Thank you for joining me for this Storytime in Nature reading of Follow the Drinking Gourd by Jeanette Winter. For more videos or content, please follow our Facebook or our YouTube page at Manatee County Parks and Natural Resources. And remember, for the old man is a waiting for to carry you to freedom if you follow the Drinking Gourd.
Follow the drinking gourd. Follow the drinking gourd. For the old man is waiting for to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd.